Today we're doing something really quite mind-bending. We're looking at that ancient story, Eve's creation from Adam's rib.
Yeah, a foundational one.
Exactly. But not just retelling it. We're going to explore it through this, astonishing modern scientific lens, specifically human cloning. So our mission here really is to see how concepts like sexual dimorphism, advanced stem cells, how these could maybe theoretically turn that myth into something, almost non-fictional.
Right, a potential biological hypothesis.
It really makes you rethink things, doesn't it? Life, identity, creation itself.
It absolutely does. And what's so compelling is how this intersection just blurs those lines,
Yeah.
between ancient stories and cutting-edge science.
Definitely.
It's going to raise some pretty big questions, I think, about where we came from and maybe where we're going.
Okay, let's dive right in then, this core idea. Dimorphic cloning. That term itself is fascinating. What exactly are we talking about there? Why is it so central?
Right, okay, so sexual dimorphism first. It's actually everywhere in biology.
Okay.
It's just the idea that males and females of the same species, they often look different.
Different traits, yeah.
Exactly. Size, color, structure. These differences aren't just cosmetic. They often matter for, reproduction, survival, adaptation.
Makes sense.
And the sources give this really interesting example. It asks, why do men have nipples but male mice don't?
Huh. I never thought about that.
Right. It kind of points towards this idea of a shared primordial blueprint.
A shared blueprint. It's a powerful image. So how does that lead to dimorphic cloning?
Well, it connects directly. The idea behind dimorphic cloning is that you could theoretically engineer a female from a male donor's material,
Okay.
but not as an identical copy. She'd have her own distinct female traits. She'd be not a copy, but a complement, as the source puts it.
A complement. So genetically linked, but different. Opposite sex.
Precisely. Which, brings us right back to Genesis chapter 2, verses 21-22.
Let me think. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam.
And he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh,
And the rib, which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman.
and brought her unto the man. Yeah, that passage.
Wow. Okay, so the ancient story and this modern biological concept, they're converging right there. And the text specifically says the rib. Why the rib? Biologically speaking, what's special about it here?
Well, the sources call the rib a kind of biological marvel.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of the few bones we have that can actually regenerate itself pretty well if part is removed.
I didn't know that.
And crucially, it's described as a prolific source of stem cells.
Okay. Stem cells, we hear that term all the time. Why are they the key ingredient for this dimorphic cloning idea?
So think of stem cells as like the ultimate blank slate cells.
Undifferentiated.
Exactly. The sources say they're primordial, undifferentiated, brimming with generative power. Their real magic is what's called pluripotent potential.
Meaning they can become almost anything.
Pretty much, yeah. They can develop into all sorts of different cell types, different tissues. That makes them perfect, theoretically, for something like reproductive cloning.
So in this Eve scenario, you'd be taking the stem cells from the rib.
You'd be extracting the very essence of life, essentially, from the donor, Adam, to build Eve.
So the rib, the stem cells, it's like an ancient blueprint for reproductive cloning. It's actually pretty staggering how that lines up with what we know or are learning about cloning today.
It really is. And, to appreciate just how radical that ancient idea seems now, it helps to look at our own much more recent journey with cloning.
Right.
Science started poking around this quite a while back, but the big moment everyone remembers is Dolly the sheep.
1996, wasn't it?
That's the one, the first mammal cloned from an adult cell. A huge deal. They used a technique called somatic cell nuclear transfer.
Okay, what's that, basically?
Well, in simple terms, you take the nucleus, the cell's control center, with all the DNA from a regular adult body cell.
Like a skin cell or something.
Could be, yeah. And you transfer that nucleus into an egg cell that's had its own nucleus removed. Then you kind of kickstart it to develop.
To create a new organism, like Dolly.
Exactly.
But when we talk about cloning now, it's not always about making copies of whole individuals, is it? There are different kinds.
That's a really important distinction, yeah. We usually talk about two main types. First, there's reproductive cloning.
Like the Dolly example, or hypothetically Eve, making a whole new being.
Right. Creating a new, genetically similar organism. That's the one that links back directly to this whole Eve hypothesis.
Okay, and the other type.
That's therapeutic cloning. The focus there isn't on creating a baby, but on generating specific tissues or organs.
For medical uses.
Exactly. Things like growing replacement organs for transplants, maybe finding new ways to treat really tough diseases. It's about healing and regeneration.
And it feels like the science here is moving so fast. We hear about new methods, CRISPR gene editing.
Oh, definitely. CRISPR, stem cell manipulation.
Yeah.
These tools are getting incredibly precise. They allow us to target and change DNA in ways we couldn't before.
It feels like we're getting closer and closer to really unlocking whatever potential cloning holds.
We are making huge strides, yes.
But, okay, as we talk about the science, especially reproductive cloning, even the therapeutic kind, you can't escape the ethical questions.
No, you absolutely can't.
And what's fascinating here is that the Eve story itself, it kind of touches on these massive ethical issues. Individuality, creation, thousands of years before science could even, do this stuff.
That's a great point. It's like an ancient mirror. And it really forces us to confront this question. What does it mean to be an individual?
Right. If Eve was, in this hypothesis, Adam remade, is she truly her own person? Even if dimorphically different.
Does it change her fundamental self? It's a deep question about identity. And then there's consent.
Huge issue in modern cloning debates.
Absolutely paramount. It really throws a spotlight on the immense responsibility and the ethical weight of creating life this way. These implications need serious thought.
And different societies view this very differently, don't they? The laws around cloning are all over the place.
They really are. Some countries have outright bans on reproductive cloning, others have specific rules. It reflects a huge range of cultural, ethical, religious viewpoints. There's no global consensus.
So you have these big ethical hurdles, but then the potential upside, especially for therapeutic cloning, it seems enormous. What's the promise there?
The potential benefits are really significant. The sources talk about organ regeneration for transplants. Imagine getting rid of waiting lists.
Wow.
And developing new methods for treating debilitating diseases. Think about conditions like Parkinson's, diabetes, spinal cord injuries. Growing personalized cells or tissues could revolutionize treatment.
That future sounds incredible. But there have to be risks too, right? We mentioned Dolly. What did we learn from those early experiments?
Oh, absolutely. Big risks and challenges. We need to be realistic. There are concerns about possible physical and psychological effects.
Like Dolly being born aged.
Exactly. Her telomeres, those little protective caps on the ends of chromosomes, they were shorter than they should have been. Like she started life already biologically older.
So the process itself might have unintended consequences.
It suggests that, potential pitfalls we haven't fully understood or overcome yet. Plus, public perception is a huge factor.
How so?
Well, society's views are very mixed, and often they're shaped more by, say, science fiction movies or media headlines than the actual science.
Right. Lots of fear and misunderstanding sometimes.
Which adds another layer of difficulty to navigating the research and potential applications responsibly.
So bringing it all back, this idea of Eve, potentially a dimorphic clone from Adam's rib, ancient story meets cutting-edge biology.
Yeah. And if that ancient tale can be viewed through this biological lens, if the line between myth and potential reality gets that blurry, what does it really tell us?
About our origins.
About the origins of our own dimorphic design, maybe. Why males and females are the way they are. And looking forward, how will future discoveries keep changing our understanding of life, of identity, of what it means to create?
It really does shift your perspective.
It significantly impacts humanity, as one source puts it. This
Yeah.
constant reevaluation based on what we discover, what we learn we can do.
Looking at Eve through the lens of cloning, it really makes you stop and think about that intersection. Ancient narratives, modern science.
What it all means for us.
Yeah, what it means for our understanding of life, who we are, and maybe humanity's future role in creation itself.